Recorded live from Pontiac, Michigan, it's the SOS Show with Mary Evans.
I know I'm gonna leave a legacy. I know I'm gonna leave a legacy. SOS, yes, SOS. SOS, yes, SOS. SOS, yes, SOS. I know they gon' remember me, cause I'm gon' leave a legacy.
We are going to welcome the one, the only, Mary Evans!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, y'all can do better than that. This is Mary Evans. That's what I'm talking about. I love y'all, Pontiac. Thanks for coming out to the SOS Show with Mary Evans. Tonight is a great show, but also a sad show. But we are going to share stories that hopefully we can inspire and motivate each other. Sometimes people say when you're going through things, I know how you feel, but if you haven't experienced and been through it, you really don't. I hate to hear someone say, your mother passed away, I know you feel. No, you don't, because you could call your mother every day. No, you don't. You can go to dinner with your mother. You understand what I'm saying? So it's hard to understand unless you have been through it. Your job today is to listen and applaud the hell out of these people, because it's hard to get up here and share stories in front of the audience, the stories you're going to hear today. Do you agree? Have everybody heard about the Me Too movement? So a lot of times you hear mostly the ladies coming out, right? We have a gentleman that's going to speak with us tonight. And that's not an easy thing to do, whether you're a male or female. See, this is not a male thing or a female thing. This is a society thing that happens all over, right? So when they come up today, your job is to listen, and hopefully you can learn something that you can go home and talk with someone that's going through it and inspire and motivate them, because sharing the story and talking about it is a part of healing. So many women have walked around, and men, 10, 15, 20 years and not knowing, why am I overeating? Why am I drinking? Why am I using drugs? You know, all of that. We'll never know how many things, decisions we make is because of things that we went through when we were younger. Did you know that? You wonder, why am I like this? Everything that happened to you in your life has something to do with the way you are today. Everything. I'm a giver, love to help people, sometimes give to it hurt. But, you know, we all have something special about us, and we don't know why, but it's all programmed from when you were a child. So please be mindful, and let's give them an applause, because this is just a hard thing to do. So the first speaker I'm going to call out is Howerton. Come to the stage, please.
Hello. Is my mic on? Can everybody hear me? Okay, so I was asked by Miss Mary to come share tonight my story of surviving sexual abuse. So ever since I can remember from birth, I was sexually abused by 3 cousins until about the age of 6. And this went on every day until until I finally ended up saying something, because I realized that this wasn't right. This isn't something that should be happening. And as I got older, when I started getting my life together, when I started getting the things that I needed to get together in order, I decided to make a change in my community. I decided to be the change that I wanted to see. So at 17 years old, going on 18, I started an organization called Chosen Kingdom Builders. And initially I thought, okay, we're going to come in, we're going to help some people get some jobs, we're going to kind of deal with a little bit of what they're going through, but we're not going to have any focus on any specific thing. It's just going to be broad mentorship, natural mentorship. And I continued to feel led to do something more. So as I got my 501c3 status for this organization, I saw that as God laid it on my heart to share my story more and more of how I was a survivor and not a victim, and how I was somebody who had a great amount of strength because God allowed this thing to happen, not because he wanted me to hurt, not because he wanted me in pain, but he knew that I was a survivor. And I had to start building up on the inside of the young men that I was serving at the time the same thing, because a lot of them were survivors that were scared to speak out. So I started taking classes. I started getting certifications in trauma-informed care and what it looked like to go through these phases of grief and hurt and loss. Because as you're having to figure this stuff out, you face grief, you face loss, you face hurt. Because even if these people are jacked up from head to toe with the things that they've done, they're still family. And so many times we feel wrong as survivors still loving a family member who did us wrong. We feel like, did I allow this to happen? Is it my fault? Is this something I wanted? Because I don't want to see them in a bad situation after what they did to me. So I started phasing through. I started getting in a little bit more legal issues and legal trouble. So at this point, I'd been arrested about 5 times. And a friend of mine who invited me to church, I went to church, he sat down with me and we had a heart-to-heart as men, and I started for the first time really sharing and pouring out what I went through and what I faced. And he looked at me and he said, Quan, he said, God has chosen you to show other people their way into their promised land, their way into what he's called them to, their way into what surviving looks like after we come out of just surviving and when we push into thriving. So we sat down and we're having this heart-to-heart conversation, and it dawned on me that nobody was telling the young men in our community that they could still be whole after being hurt. So I started putting together a curriculum. At this time, I had a bunch of certifications under my belt, a bunch of different trainings under my belt, and I started putting together a curriculum that would teach young men that we worked with how to claim their survival, how to claim who they are and not what they went through, how to claim the fire that they needed to ignite them on their path, and not use this as a fire that's supposed to burn them up. And one of the stories we often would use was the story of 3 Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I took the opportunity to teach them that as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood in that fiery furnace, they were not only okay, but they were loosed walking around. And the very thing that was meant to destroy them destroyed the very ones who was throwing them in the fire. And God started revealing to me, this is something that this is a testimony that I'm going to use you to share so that young men can break free from the bondage of unforgiveness and self-hate from what they face. So I wanted to share a couple of tips of what it looks like, not only to identify survivors, but to help them walk this path of survival and thriving. So I'm going to share some tips with you all. And if there's some things that you see, just take a little bit of a closer look into the young man and or the young lady's life that you're looking at that are showing signs. One of the top signs is defecating on themselves purposely. They'll use the bathroom on themselves. It won't be nighttime. A lot of times they'll smear it. They'll smear it over walls. They'll smear it on their bed. 15, 14 years old, 13 years old. Another sign is at 13, 14, normally when they start to hit puberty, they'll start urinating on themselves again, like wetting the bed while they're asleep. They'll start having nightmares, waking up screaming in cold sweats. And what a lot of people don't understand, we think that this is just an emotional response to the trauma and the hurt that they felt. But we don't take time to understand the psychology behind it and the fact that there is literally a chemical change and a physical change in the brain that occurs from this type of trauma. So this person is literally being changed from the inside out. They are becoming a different person. And if that very thing is not honed in on, if they're not molded into the person that is labeled a survivor and not a victim, Then we see young people grow up and they become drug addicts. They become alcoholics. They decide to do what I started to do and thankfully came out of, and they try to numb all the pain that they can't face anymore because they feel like they're not strong enough. So I've come tonight, and anywhere that I go to share is to get people to understand the actual effects of this trauma that young people go through when they're being sexually abused. I often ask a question with people, and I have everybody bow their heads, and I ask them while their eyes are closed to raise their hand and to share with me if they've ever gone through something with a smile on their face to make everybody think they were okay. And oftentimes every hand in the room goes up because so many people are facing traumas and pains of not only sexual abuse, but abuse of any kind, and they don't know how to get it out. So my encouragement tonight is to share not only what I survived, but to share that anybody in your life who is going through this very pain can also be a survivor with your assistance. No judgment needed, no excuses needed, but just assistance in being the survivor that they're called to be. So with all of that being said, I just want to leave you guys with this. Today I stand before you a strong man with a family that I love and that loves me dearly. And I stand before you a business owner. I stand before you a successful man. And I stand before you somebody who allowed the pain that he went through to be the purpose in his destination. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that when you look at somebody who's been through this pain, use that word survivor. Don't use that word victim. Use that word survivor and encourage them to continue to push. Give them their time to mourn. Don't stop their mourning, but continue to stand with them while they figure out the answers to be the man or woman that they're called to be. Thank you for your time.
Stay right there. Come on, stay right there. I have a couple questions for you.
Okay, perfect.
Can we do better than that? Thank you so much. Kawan, I just want to ask a question, and we'll take a couple questions from the audience if you would like. When you were going, we had several conversations. What are some of the things that you went through when your auntie was babysitting you, when she wanted you to do the things she do? How did she lead you to the act?
So I can still remember a lot of the words they would say. Can we go do that thing? Can we go play that game? Mm-hmm. Nobody understood at the time why this little boy, every time he went over there, wanted to be naked with just a t-shirt on. Nobody knew the trauma of what a little kid being told to do with these sexual acts felt like, and being confused and being torn, because I loved my family and I thought that this is what love was. I thought this is what love felt like, and a lot of people just didn't understand what to look for in me and what signs to look for to help me get out of that painful place I was in. But those words still ring in my head to this day. To this day, I still have to, as the survivor, I still have to remind myself at times that it's okay when people go in for a hug and I feel weird with physical touch at times and all these different things. As I continue to progress and grow, I find in myself the strength, the ability, and the wisdom to allow myself to be vulnerable as a survivor and to be weak enough to say I need help in the areas that I need help in.
Wow. Yes. We have a question from the audience.
I kind of have a two-part question. First, I want to know, how much older was your cousins that did that?
They were adults.
Wow.
So one at the time was, to do math, one at the time in her the two ladies were in their 20s. The other one, the young man, was 18.
Wow. The age that you are now, have you ever got an apology or something from them over the years?
No, because I think that what a lot of families do and what my family did, with no judgment on my end, try to ignore it like it didn't happen. And what I realized, what I had to decide within myself was me living in my reality and my survivor story is not based off of their reaction to my pain. So I had to stop looking for an apology from them because I didn't do anything but continue to disappoint myself and continue to live in this vicious cycle of feeling like a victim and not a victor. So what I had to do was I had to make up in my mind, I'm going to share with you what you did to hurt me, but regardless of how you receive that, I'm still a survivor.
Wow, that's
I've
awesome.
still made it.
Any more questions from the audience? Okay, one more.
I didn't hear you say if you were sexually abused by men and women, or was it just women?
It was both, men and women.
Okay. And with that, because was it a chain reaction for you? You know, when someone's abused or sexually abused, it's because someone else has abused them. So did you also abuse?
No,
Okay.
I did not. I had to make a decision that, because a lot of things like that are generational curses. And so it happened for generation after generation after generation. Like, my mother was sexually abused. My grandfather was sexually abused. His father was sexually abused. And I had to make a decision to say, this stops with me.
I'm sorry.
So I had to be, which is always finding that fine balance in like, okay, what do I need to shut down and where do I need to back off so that my kids can have a normal life and my pain and my trauma doesn't stop them from being a normal child. So I have to find constantly, even today, and it can get difficult, that consistent balance. Like, okay, what is the trauma speaking to and what is my survivor story speaking to? And just find that happy balance in between.
All right, Kwan, we have one more question.
What's up, Kwan? So we are in the Me Too movement, and with that, we have a lot of people coming out on teachers, on family members, and stuff like that, and taking legal action. Have you seeked legal action or, introduced this story to the courts or anything else like that?
Let me answer that carefully. I encourage everybody who's gone through sexual abuse to do just that. But I also encourage everybody who's going through sexual abuse to handle what they have the capacity to handle. And I knew at the time, because I was just trying to forgive, that I couldn't open up that can of worms and still be okay. So I had to make a decision in me to say, you're wrong, bring that to these people. But I had to make a decision to let it go on my end because I knew that I would be opening up more hurt, hate, and bitterness, and I would have done more damage to me than I did trying to get justice with them. So I'm saying that to say I don't want to discourage anybody from ever, no matter the age, in seeking legal counsel and or having those people prosecuted. For me, I just was not at the time strong enough to emotionally to play both sides.
All right, let's give him an applause. Thank you so much, Kwan. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's give it to him again. That was awesome. Great story, Kwan. So I've talked with survivors, and I'm just going to share a story with a close friend of mine that was sexually abused. A lot of times they don't tell anyone because, for one, people don't believe them. Two, they ask, what did you do? Now that's the craziest question. What did you do? So she was molested by her uncle from the age of 6 to about 12 years old of age. She struggled. Now this is so deep. At one point, when her mother would say, I'm taking you to let your uncle babysit, she would cry, I don't want to go, but her mother just thought, she don't want me to leave her. She said as time went on, the act began to feel good to her. So now we're talking about a child, but she was like the things he was doing started to feel good, so then she beat herself up and thought, it is my fault because I start to enjoy it. So they know and they target the children that they think won't say anything. When you are a child that are lonely, you are being raised by a single parent, there's a lot of things that go on in the household, and then you have this one person that's showing you the love. And it's just really a sad thing. So we just have to be careful. And you hear it all the time on Facebook, ladies, stop using these boyfriends for babysitters. And it can be a family member as well, but we just too quick to let people take care of our children. We have to be careful. We have to be careful with that, all right? Okay, so I went to a class, I was a certification, and we learned this. As you grew up, when mom would wash you up, she would call your private spot the cookie. Don't let anybody mess with the pie, or the sugar box, okay? We have different names, the sugar box. Well, now they're saying, you have to tell these girls and boys their body parts. What is the real name? We're not calling it cookie. We're calling it your vagina, your penis. So it was a young lady going to school, and every morning when she would come in, she would tell the teacher, Daddy keep messing with my cookies. The teacher thought she was talking about cookies. Now this baby went on for 3 years before they realized what cookies she was talking about. Her mom had nicknamed her vagina the cookie. So she was trying to reach out for help because mom had nicknamed it cookie. Every time that she went to multiple people in the school and said, Daddy keep messing with my cookie. So stop with those nicknames. We have to tell it like it is and keep it real with our kids today. And because of that, 3 years she went being molested. And the teacher said she had been telling them for 3 years that her dad was messing with her cookie. We have to keep it real with them. Yes. All right, next we have a great story. Tanisha, Stacey, please come to the stage and share your story. Can we please give her applause, please? Thank you.
I as well am a survivor. It felt a little strange for me to say survivor because I never considered myself a victim. At 5 years old, I was molested. I can clearly remember that in my head right now, what happened at 5 years old. All of my childhood, I was molested, by different people, even including my father. And I never told anybody. For whatever reason, I didn't feel like I had anybody close enough to me that I could actually tell. And also, I know that in my family, they're very judgmental. So with that being said, you have to be very careful what you tell them. So I didn't say anything until I became of age. And I think all the times I was being molested, I just kind of tuned it out. My body went numb. So I didn't feel anything. I knew what was happening. I knew what was happening was wrong. But it was just numb to me. I didn't like it. So what that actually did to me, it turned me against men. And it made me always want to be in control because someone had always controlled me. So I wanted to be in control. And that's how I am right now. I want to be in control. Again, when I became of age, thank you, I began to talk about it. And I began to tell what was happening from my father to being, a child being molested. I began to tell the story. And it was always well with my soul. And I'll see some of the people that molest me right now today. And I do not have no animosity towards them. I don't feel no type of way towards them. I know what they did. They know what they did. And that's something they'll have to answer for. We have to be very careful about being judgmental. We are very judgmental. You don't know nobody's story while you're judging them. We're really bad with that. I mean, whatever it may be, it could be, and different things happen when people become molested. They could become promiscuous. That's one of the things that happen. They could become gay, they become bisexual, they go off on drugs. There's different things that go on. So as we quick to say, oh, she's gay, you don't know my story. I've been through so much. I could really be a murderer. But God. But God. You know. And I know it had to be nobody but God for me to never have any animosity towards anybody. And it's interesting to me that as a child, 5 years old, and I don't know when it stopped. And it's from my father, from the neighbors, from people, my mom. And I'm not blaming my mom, and I'm not blaming nobody. Please understand it. But from people, my mom let babysit me. You have to be careful with those things, and not just men, but women. Women molest as well. So you have to be very careful with that. And again, I don't know when the molestation actually stopped, but something in me was able to be able to tell my story. Not to my mom, not to the authorities, but just tell it so I can help somebody else. Because we have to know that this goes on. And a lot of times we sweep this under the carpet and act like it didn't happen. And yes, it did. But as a child being molested is interesting. You have to be in tune with your child. You have to, because somebody should have known something was going on, because you do change. Different things go on, whether you become withdrawn, different things happening as a child. And when you as a parent and a child, you should be able to look at certain things and say, something's not right here. And for me, with my daughter, who's actually here, I was very overprotective with my daughter. Very, so I let my daughter, we could talk about any and everything. You can tell me. It doesn't matter what anybody else say to you, what they tell you, you can talk to me. I did thorough searches with my daughter when she came back from different places. Let mama see. I need to see what's actually going on, because I'm her protector. And you have to be a protector of your children. No matter what age they is, you have to protect them. And I don't actually trust anybody. I really don't, especially with, my daughter, my grandson, and things like that. I don't, because you don't know. And you can say, oh, well, this is Uncle Jimmy, Uncle Jimmy's in church. Screw that. My dad molested me. Now, you understand that? And that right there is really deep. This is my flesh and blood. This is not my maybe father. This is my father. So you really have to be careful with that. But again, it's well with my soul. I tell the story because I want to help other people, for it to be well with them. I also want to help us that we don't be so judgmental. Please, we have to stop that. We judge everything. And you really have to stop it, because you just don't know somebody's story. You don't know. And again, I have people that call me and they want to talk about it. And if you want to call me and talk about it, if I can be a help to you, I'll be glad to do that. I also feel that I was supposed to go through this. This is part of my journey. I'm never questioning God about this, because I understand this is going to help my ministry when I walk in my ministry. This is part of my ministry. My ministry is victims, is victims. Out of all the times I've actually been molested, I've actually had one person come to me and say, hey, I was messed up in the mind and I'm sorry. One person came. I confronted my father about it, and he was so messed up in the mind, he wanted to do it again. So again, you really have to be careful. And when my dad passed, no animosity. I buried my father. I put him away real nice. I did all of that for him. I shipped his body here, because at the end, I understand that it was something wrong with him. And a lot of times when this actually happened, and part of my family is generational curse. That runs deep down in the family, but you have to get to the root of it and find out what's actually going on and stop it. So for me, it stopped with me. It stopped. I didn't do that. And I'm very overprotective with other people who talk about, they've been molested, and people say, no, they wasn't. They just was. You don't know if they was or they wasn't. We have to be careful with that. But again, thank you for letting me share my story. That's it. And if I can leave you with anything, one thing I really want you to do is please, please, please stop being so judgmental. Please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you know it's a shame we have people dealing with depression and anxiety that's committing suicide because they can't trust anyone to talk to.
That's right.
It's happening every day. We just had a young lady not too long ago in Pontiac. Because we're so judgmental, they're afraid to share their story. And we have to stop it, like you say, we have to stop it. The only way that we are going to make a difference in the healing is to be able to share our story. And if everyone feel like they can't share a story because we're going to be so judgmental, we're never going to grow from it.
And everybody have a story.
Everyone have a
May
story.
not be my story, but everybody has a story. So when you go to judge and get ready to say something, think about your own story. Do you want somebody to judge you from your story? So you have to be careful.
Yes.
I don't pass no judgment on anybody and what they do. You could be an alcoholic. You could be a crackhead. If that makes you happy, then do you. That's my thing.
All right.
But we so quick to say, oh, I don't know why they doing that. That ain't even your business. You just pray for them. You don't know their heart. You know what I mean? And one thing I notice is that a lot of people talk about, oh, you gay, you going to hell. It's a sin. It's an abomination. All sins are abominations, so I guess everybody going.
Right.
There's no great sins, no sin, no better than the next sin. So as we talk about that, how some people are overweight. Me too. But some people are overweight, but we don't preach about gluttony, but they quick to preach about homosexuality. We don't preach about adultery, but you quick to preach about homosexuality. All the sins are the same. So that if I'm going to hell, I guess everybody else going too.
You have a point there. When you talk about being gay, I've heard a lot of people say you're born gay, you talk gay, someone maybe being sexual. Would you say that your being sexually abused had anything with you being gay, Tanisha?
Absolutely. I think that's the reason that I said it. I turned towards not liking men in that way because of the control factor. I don't think anybody is born gay because God is not of confusion. So you're not born gay. That's a choice you made or something happened that turned you that way, in my opinion.
All right. Any questions from the audience? Okay.
This is more of a comment. I wanted to say, because I've only known you for about a year, and in that short time, I had no idea this story, had affected you in that way. And the reason why I feel like I need to make a comment is for anyone that's in the audience today. This person is the most sociable, happy, party, let's do it together. This is what makes sense as a unit together. I've never seen that level of pain or, of that kind of trauma on your life because you live so full and so brightly, and so you warm and you welcoming to so many people. And I know that that's not easy for people who went through what you went through. So I wanted to make that comment. And just for people that didn't know you, and also ask you, how do you keep yourself so positive, so loving to everybody, even though someone was like that to you?
God. It's just God. It's just the grace of God. I understand again that everything I went through is because I can endure it. Somebody else might not have been able to endure it. So he put it on me to do it. So in part of my ministry, everything, I treat people how I want to be treated. That's what I live by. It doesn't matter, and I taught this to my daughter too, it doesn't matter how you treat me. Because when I get to the gate, I have to answer for me. He's not going to say nothing to me about nobody else. It's about me. So I'm only accountable for me. So that's how I live. I'm accountable for me and everything. I love the Lord. I love the Lord. Anybody that know me, we have a conversation. I get excited when it's time to talk about God. Everything else is cool. I may get a little high. But when you talk about the Lord, I know the one who actually brought me through everything that I've been through, because I promised the goodness. I could really be a killer, y'all. You got to understand that. All my childhood, I didn't have a childhood like other people. I was molested from one person to the next person to the next. That's enough right there to make somebody lose their mind. But God, you understand? This ain't something I play with. It's but God, I know, brought me through and gonna keep me going forward. Nobody but the Lord. No matter what you may think of me, no matter what I may do, at the end of the day, it's about me and God.
All right, one more question. All right, come on, we can do better than that.
Amen. I thank God for your testimony, but did you have to go through therapy? A lot of times we in the African American community don't do therapy, and I was wondering, did you do it?
No. I did no therapy. I did none of that. Nothing. Just God. Just God. Just God.
Any more questions from the audience?
And I consider myself the chosen one. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. Thank you. Let's give her applause, please. Come on. Let me get a hug too, the boy. This wasn't easy, I'm sure. Sharing our story definitely helps each other. So I invited two of my friends here, Positive Change for Counseling. Can we get an applause, please? What I would like to do is when I have a certain topic that I have counselors, if I'm talking about in mass incarceration, have attorneys, resources, in case there is anyone here in the audience that would like to speak with someone, we can have them on board. That is my goal. Whatever topic we have, I have somebody here that can help you. You can get resources, and at the end of the day, you leave learning something, feeling something, and you can go out, each one teach one. So I'm gonna let Lauren talk first, please.
Hello. My name is Lauren Burke, and this is my partner and sister, Sarah Burke, and we are the owners and founders of Positive Change Counseling. We are located in Southfield, Michigan, and actually here by appointment. I just want to commend you both for telling your story. I think that it was extremely brave, and I can't even tell you how many times I go into homes and I talk with people and their story is not told. Everything's a secret. And the only way that we can begin to heal is when we communicate, because your feelings and your emotions are important. True change happens in the context of a loving, supportive relationship. You know, I'm thinking about what was going on with your parents, where they was just so relieved to get a babysitter that they didn't do the knowledge to say, guess what, I don't need to drop my child off. Let me try to figure that out. So not to, blame your parents or anything but just to be more in tune to what's going on. I remember when I first became a counselor and a clinician, I worked in an all-male treatment facility, and a lot of men who were 60, 70 years old disclosed to me about abuse and trauma that they went through, which motivated me to go into 5 and under and 6 and under. So I go right there with those parents. And I say, hey, your kid is telling you something. Are you listening? No, they may be lying. No, they're not lying. Listen to them. What can we do about that? And I help them to support them in that process. So I just want to tell you, thank you for telling your stories. And thank you for being here, because that's where the healing starts.
I am extremely grateful to be here tonight. Your stories have moved me. I've been practicing for, 15 years plus, and each story is individual. Each story is special. Each story is meaningful, and your courage is just amazing. It's just amazing. People stay sick not because of the illness, but because of guilt, because of shame, and because of judgment. And if we could just release that guilt, release the shame, and release the judgment, we would heal. We wouldn't sweep it under the rug. right? That's the problem. It's a secret. Nobody tells. And we don't think we're supposed to. But we are. And that's the only way to heal. So we really, really invite you to come and learn more about yourself, your relationship of love for yourself, your love for your partners, your children, and love for God too. We are very excited to help you talk about healthy relationships, talk about having expectations and healthy boundaries. So again, thank you for inviting Positive Change Counseling out tonight, and we look forward to answering any questions you have and to working with you collaboratively towards a healthy future.
Thank you. Can we give another applause? They came from Southfield to support us. Thank you so much. You know what else make me so excited? We coming together, right? Coming together, making a difference in this world, collaborating, coming together, and that's what it's going to take. See, when it comes to people of color, in case you haven't received the memo, we have to make our own roles and make our own moves. When it comes to us, things are always so much harder. It's harder anyway, but we even make it harder by the way we judge each other and how we don't support each other, right? So in this space, at the SOS show is to collaborate with my people. When I look for a counselor, I'm gonna be honest with you, I wanted a Black company, Black business to come in because they don't understand us. Nobody could tell me if I had a white counseling company that they understand what we're going through or what we've been through, what we continue to go through. You know why they can't understand it? Because they never been Black. That's like me telling you again, you lost your mother, and I say, I understand how you feel, and I could call my mother tonight and say, Mom, get ready to come over. I'm having a bad day. I need to talk to you. So in everything that we do, the SOS show, remember, it's about us. And if we can help somebody else along the way, that's good too. But it's a platform for us where we can do some healing and stop sweeping everything under the rug. I want to thank you guys for coming out today. I hope you enjoyed the SOS show by Mary Evans. You know, we always go out with that jingle. I love my jingle, and I love you, and I love my people. Black power, baby. Thank you.